And look at this, Chris Mikuta is in the house again. So good to have you back on the channel today.
Thanks again for having me, man.
Chris and I are in Wyoming doing a lot of good training here at a jiu-jitsu retreat.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they put in the water in Wyoming because there are some big, young, strong, dynamic guys.
Some huge dudes here.
that are tough to deal with. And so I thought for the channel today, it would be fun to talk about how, as older guys, we can take it to the...
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, Brody. Hey, Brody. Hey, Pops. What's going on? What are you guys talking about?
We're talking about how to beat the young bucks.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I wanted to mention that I have a brand new course out called My Favorite Moves. It's a collection of about 40 of the techniques that I employ most often. My goal for this course was for it to be very fast-paced, very watchable with high entertainment value, and a lot of information transmitted in a really compressed period of time so you don't have to suffer for the knowledge. If you want to check it out, just go to my website, rickellis.com. And I appreciate it.
All right, Chris, so you walk into an open mat or training environment and you're scanning the room.
And they're looking right at you.
And they're looking at you. You've got a black belt. You're the measuring stick.
Yeah. And you know what, though? I don't know about you, but, when I walk into that room and they start looking me over like I'm a piece of meat, all I think is, no, you guys are in my house.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you why I'm a black belt. No, I'm just kidding.
That's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
For maybe we'll exchange a few ideas for dealing with the young bucks. What you got?
I think so. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. How we handle the young guys.
How we handle the young bucks. They're faster. They're stronger. They're more powerful. Their cardio, you can't deplete their cardio.
No.
And nothing hurts them.
Yeah.
So
It's
what do
horrible.
we do?
It's horrible. So I think for me, one of the first things that I always kind of think about is don't go where their game is. Mm-hmm. Meaning, like when I approach the situation with them, I immediately size up, like, what are they doing at that very moment? And like, for instance, if Rick and I are getting ready to roll and he's that young guy, he's on his knees, he's not going to be playing guard, at least not right now. He's not going to play guard. He wants to come at me. So what I would probably think to do is, okay, do I want to match this young guy? Do I want to match his speed, his strength? I don't think so. So typically what I'll do is I'll get inside on my butt, make sure my hands are in front of my feet, and make sure I get lower than his base and his posture. And then from here, I'll start playing the game of, adding in things from here, like either, get 2-on-1 or get the foot in the hip, whatever. But I'm not going to play his game. If I come up on Rick and he's that young guy and he's
higher.
Oh, he's even higher. Yeah.
I mean, that happens too, right?
Yeah. Well, let's look at it for what that is. So if he's higher, sometimes I'm like, okay, well, man, I just don't know. Maybe I'm going to go a little higher. Maybe I'm going to test the waters here and see what's going to go on. But I always want to try to stay out of the game that they're playing at the moment and introduce something else that may cause a little chaos for them.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're always trying to, we're always trying to outthink one another when we play jiu-jitsu anyways.
And that strategy.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely true. Strategy is really critical. You're in today, we're rolling. There's some big freaking dudes, and you're looking at this guy and you're like, I can't play bottom with this guy. And so strategy, the challenge is that you need a certain amount of skill to even be able to implement strategy. When you don't have a lot of skill yet, there's no context for strategy. Mm-hmm. But you're right, go where they're weak or don't go where they want to go. And you're looking at this guy who's yoked.
Yeah.
You know he wants top. You know he wants to smash you.
Yeah.
You got to get to the back. You got to get somewhere else.
Yeah. And you have to play like with your tools facing them, basically, don't go where they're going, try to play outside of that. What about you? What do you think?
I think I think that same stuff, but along with that, I think get to your preferred position or get to your, I can't just be here. We bump fists. What do I want? I don't know what I want. What does he want? I don't know what he wants. We're just going to whatever, right? I mean, with skill, you can do that. You can just be whatever. You can be a counterpuncher. Wherever he goes, I'm just going to adjust.
So you see this kind of
But I see this, dude. I got to get in and get some attachments.
Yeah.
I have to take, I have 4 limbs.
Yeah.
Preferably, I'm going to utilize my 4 limbs against you, and I'm going to deny you the ability to use at least 1 or 2 of those limbs to be able to slow you down.
But I saw you immediately stretched me out.
And immediately stretching out.
Yeah,
This is
you're
horrible. You're a fan of that.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that.
Yeah.
You're a fan of the 2-on-1 or the one-on-one, getting the feet involved. Just don't let them operate in the wild with impunity.
Yeah.
You have to be able to slow them down. So that means jump to your position, get to where you want to be quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. How about the concept? And this is definitely more of a recent. I'd say recent, but it's probably like 5, maybe 10 years, but definitely 5. The whole concept of guard retention. If you don't have a guard retention game in your wheelhouse to begin with, you're always going to be behind the 8 ball when you got somebody who's a smash passer, who's bigger than you, stronger than you.
And so deplete your tank too.
Yeah, the first time I heard it said was when Jason Skelly from Grappler's guide, when he said keep them in your headlights. And then I've heard other people like reference since then.
Yeah.
But Jason was the first time I heard it. And if Rick's on his cam by base or his knees or even standing, I always want to keep him in my headlights, right? So the way I look at it, I don't know if Jason said this or not, but this is your headlights. Your knees are your headlights. So anytime Rick got past this, and we kind of talked about this the last time too, a little bit. We touched on it. But keeping this person in your headlights was important for guard retention because let's face it, this is guard, right? Anytime I have my legs facing you, that's distance management, that's guard. So there's several guard retention things I use, especially with the big young dudes, right? First thing's always going to be kind of a frame. Like if Rick's getting to the side of me, I'm going to frame and move and reset those headlights. Or if Rick beats my legs, he goes like this and he's beating my legs, I will immediately start to work into that half Grammy to put him back into my guard. I mean, there's a technique or another guard retention concept called vampire roll or whatever, where you're just getting smashed here by this person one more time.
Yeah.
And you just kind of like roll.
Yeah.
You kind of do this.
Yeah.
People call it different things, but if you don't have any of that guard retention in your wheelhouse, you're always behind the 8 ball, especially when you got those guys that are big and strong like that.
And you touched on something that I think is important too, is that you have to have that next thing that you can snap to immediately when your reality changes a little bit. So, we're playing whatever. I just passed your guard in some way. If you don't have that next thing, I'm just going to flatten you out and I've got the advantage. So you have to have some pathways worked out. What do I do if he comes this way? Okay, the momentum is in that direction. Maybe I keep that going and then I recover. Whatever. There's a lot of ways to approach that, but you need that next thing. The minute your reality changes a little bit, there's always a meter. I always think of a meter going, and on one side, you got the tap. On the other side, you got the tap. You're always somewhere in this continuum of success and failure. You're always traveling somewhere. And so you want to be on the success side of the ledger, right? Always. And if you train with advanced people, you'll notice that they make that, the minute the needle starts going toward the failure side, they adjust to get themselves back to the success side.
Or at least middle.
Or at least middle, at least middle.
Sure.
And beginners don't always have that ability to make that course correction. And so you're always on the wrong side of the ledger. But if you can start monitoring that so that you're not letting yourself get too deep. And a lot of that is just being willing to let go of whatever it was that you were doing. It's not working anymore and you got to be able to adjust.
Oh, that's a great point too. Think about it like this too. Oh, man, who was it? It'll come to me later. But black belt, longtime black belt out of Renzo Gracie's shop. I can't remember his name. But he mentioned, like, to your point, when you got that success and failure going, right? They say like you're playing your thing.
Yeah.
And you're really trying to hold on to that thing because I gotta hold it. You have to know that thing left.
Yeah.
So let's say like you passed my guard, you're here, and I'm really trying. I'm trying.
You're still trying.
I'm like, I was playing guard, and that was important at that time. But Rick was successfully passing my guard, and I have to know that guard left the train. It left the station a long time ago, man. So now I have to go into the next game. What's the next thing, right? And sometimes newer students, or I say newer, but younger, newer, stronger. Sometimes their whole thing is smash, go, pressure, this. And there's so much merit to that.
Yeah.
But as older grapplers, we can't hold on to the thing that we were taught, like you got to play that guard, you got to hold this thing. No, you got to know that thing left.
That thing left.
It left,
And you got to move the next thing.
Yeah, you got to totally move to the next thing.
Let's talk about some specifics.
Okay.
Some specific kind of mechanics of dealing, because there's two basic games in jiu-jitsu: the fast, movement style game, and a slower, more incremental game. As older athletes, we're going to naturally be playing the slower, more incremental game.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to move when you need to move, but generally, the pace is slower. What do you try to do? When you're looking at this body, the body of somebody, what are you looking to do to maybe slow them down a little bit?
I'm going to rely on my frames, my ability to frame. And that frame can mean anything from, your shoulder, head to shoulder, shoulder to elbow, elbow to the hand, and then combining that entire structure, if I have to, in what we call like a stiff.
Give me an example of.
So let's say like you're really working the smash guard pass.
Okay.
Like 2 hands on the knees, and I will immediately get on that neck, and I will stretch this person out and keep I'm gonna match this force too.
Yeah.
So if I'm here, I have to match the force like this.
Yeah.
If I'm here, I gotta match. But I have got to win this game right there.
Yeah.
Right. And I put so many of those young guys, I put them right at bay with that thing, man. And they have the hardest time.
I mean, when you and I roll,
Yeah.
you always have that frame that's kind of, you're not going to let me inhabit this space.
And you have to deal with that.
Yeah.
You have to address that thing. Yeah. I don't know how you're going to address it. At the moment, I don't, but you have to address it. And while you're addressing it, I'm plotting my escape or my reset or the next thing I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So what about you?
This kind of a meta principle is that I'm always looking to establish some kind of hip control.
Yeah.
Freedom of hips means you have movement options, you have the ability to generate force, generate speed, generate direction,
submissions,
submissions, everything. And so when I'm looking at some big kid and I got to deal with him, I know that if he can move his hips freely, forget it. Yeah. And so there's so many ways to approach that denial of the hips. One is just, if I'm going to pass the guard, let's say, and I just pin, what have I done here?
Yeah.
I have denied your ability to move your hips freely.
Yeah.
And I can move with more freedom. Maybe you can move a little bit, but I'm able to, pin and move, sort of like what Roy Dean talked about in the seminar that he did, pinning and moving. If I can pass the guard, or if I'm doing more of a pressure style pass, I'm looking to get attached to this hip so that you can't move that hip away, so that I can begin tracking and moving with it. And then I can begin getting my frames, we can begin getting up here. Even if I'm in side control, a lot of times I will start low side control. I want that hip control, and I'll bury my head because I know he's going to be pushing on it, and I need to wait until I can get up to a higher side control. If he turns,
But you don't rush that, right?
I do not rush that.
Okay.
I do not rush that. I look at it sequentially. Passing the guard, I get past the knees. I'm trying to deny the hip motion. Next waypoint is the hips. Next waypoint is the shoulder line. And I'm very incremental in how I do that because I know that, you get past someone's guard, the young buck is going to be fighting, pushing, bucking, slamming everything. And you got to be able to just latch onto that. Yeah. I've got those hips. And then when I'm ready, I can move up. If you turtle, same concept. I'm attached to the hips. I have my hip into your hip. I have my armpit.
And this is
will come up and they'll play kind of a high seatbelt. They'll get bucked off, whatever. I'm more about sitting back on that hip, He has two directions he can go. He can either turn into me or turn away from me. Whatever direction I go, I'm slowing him down because I've got hip control. And then he starts to go whatever direction. Oh, he wants to go that way. Great. I can stay ahead of it because I've got hip control.
Are you reading that person then through your arm that's right at the hip there, right where your elbow joint is touching the side of my hip? You're reading that hip movement and managing the hip movement.
You can feel where they're going because you're attached.
Cool.
You know.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
So that's kind of what I'm. Half guard bottom, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, right? You know, you're playing the whole half guard, whatever. Hip control. And back to getting my hip control here. Same thing. This gives me options, right? I can chuck, I can whatever. And I'm attached to that hip.
Yeah, that's good.
Side control. A lot of times I'll pummel in. I've got that hip control. And now pretty much everywhere you go, I've got that attachment. If you want to recover guard, whatever you want to do, you know,
You're ahead of the game.
I'm ahead of the game because I'm attached.
You know, that is so amazing, man.
So that's probably that's my number one principle, I think.
Every time I look at it, it's all you do, man. You just manage that.
Manage the hip. Manage the hip.
Oh my God, it's so good.
It's a game changer with young bucks. If you take nothing else from this video, start looking for that hip. Even something so stupid.
Yeah.
You lay on your back.
Yeah.
Lay on your back. I need to rest. This guy's just killing me now.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
I've got hip control. I call this seal control because I look like a seal.
Yeah.
And I can either drop my hip on one side or use my knee on the other side.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to rest a little bit. He's got nowhere he can go. Okay, now I can play the game.
Oh gosh.
You know, but it's all about that hip.
Yeah.
Just
That's amazing.
denying their ability to move their hips freely is the key to life
That's cool.
in my world.
Man, I think that's pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I use
Okay.
to handle the young studs. It sounds like you got your tricks too.
It'd be nice to do a brain merge. I could take your tricks and take my tricks.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, you know, you develop, you know.
I got one more thing.
Yeah.
Just one more quick thing. And Rick and I were talking about this right before we started shooting, and it was something Roy Dean said.
Yeah.
And he's like, just remember it's a game, right? And if you remember that, you don't go in, even with the big strong guys, like they're looking at you like they're going to tune you up, and they're going to tune you up. But if we look at it like, well, we're just having a good time.
It's just a game.
I think Hiram Gracie is a big advocate of that.
Keep it playful.
Keep it playful. Yeah.
And if you don't take it so seriously, it means that you're willing to be in bad positions. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't. I mean, I was rolling with this big 230-pound buck today, purple belt.
Yeah.
I could not budge this guy, and I'm coming back from this clavicle injury. So all I did was play possum, defended. He took my arm a couple times, and I got my little sneaky arm escape, whatever. Like you learn to kind of, it doesn't matter. They can do whatever as long as, you know, you're kind of in control of what you're doing. It's okay.
Yeah. Well,
Awesome, man.
yeah,
That is great.
I think so.
Did we do it?
I think we did it. I think, yeah, that was pretty good. And it was so cool that you asked me to do this again.
Dude, you're the man. Chris is the man.
Appreciate this.
He's one of my favorite guys in the world. And
one of my
if you're
favorite.
in Chicago, tell them, where can people train with you?
We have a club out of Yorkville, Illinois called AXT Jiu-Jitsu. And yeah, man, if you're ever in town, you know, give us a message and tell us you're stopping in. Come on
Awesome.
down and train.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Smash that like button, and we will see you next time.